am Diana, 24 years old and a newly graduated preschool teacher. My mom, Amanda, and I have always been close, even after I moved into my own apartment. 3 years of dating led to her marriage with Gerald, a 48-year-old man with 3 kids from his previous marriage. The twins, Jacob and Jasmine, are 8, and little Ryan is 5. I was genuinely happy for Mom finding love again. That is until Gerald suddenly declared that babysitting his children was now my duty. If you are watching this right now, please let me know where you are viewing from in the comments below. Also, do not forget to like and subscribe to hear how I made my stepdad regret ever thinking he could use me as his free babysitter. My life as a preschool teacher is everything I dreamed it would be. Working with children has always been my passion, and seeing their little faces light up when they learn something new brings me more joy than I can express. I teach at Sunshine Academy, a small but well-respected preschool about 15 minutes from my apartment. The pay is not great, but the fulfillment I get makes up for it. I live in a cozy one-bedroom apartment that I managed to decorate on a budget. It is nothing fancy, but it is mine, and it is only 20 minutes away from my mom's house by car. I try to visit her at least once a week, sometimes more if our schedules allow it. My parents divorced when I was 15. Dad was always somewhat distant, and when they split up, he moved to Oregon while Mom and I stayed in California. We did not hear much from him after that, just the occasional birthday card with a check inside. His absence brought Mom and I closer. We became each other's support system, best friends even. I helped her through the divorce, and she helped me navigate the confusing teenage years without a father figure. Mom Amanda is 46 and works as an accountant at a mid-sized firm. She has this incredible strength about her, but also a gentleness that made our home feel safe, even during the toughest times. She never dated much after the divorce, focusing instead on her career and raising me. I always admired how she managed to balance everything. 3 years ago, she attended a business conference where she met Gerald. According to Mom, they bonded over their mutual dislike of the boring keynote speaker and ended up having coffee afterwards. One coffee date led to dinner, and soon they were seeing each other regularly. Mom seemed happier than she had been in years, so naturally, I was happy for her. The first time I met Gerald was about 2.5 years ago at a dinner Mom arranged. My initial impression was positive. He was tall, well-dressed, and had this confidence about him that seemed to command respect. He told us about his software company, which he had built from the ground up. I remember thinking he seemed intelligent and ambitious qualities that would complement Mom's practical nature. A few months into their relationship, I met his children. Jacob and Jasmine, the twins, were 5 at the time, and little Ryan was just 2. The twins were energetic but polite enough, while Ryan was in that adorable toddler stage where everything is fascinating. Gerald mentioned that he had full custody after his ex-wife left the family, something that earned him immediate sympathy from both Mom and me. Raising 3 young children alone must have been challenging. Over the next 2 years, I maintained a friendly but somewhat distant relationship with Gerald's children. I would see them when we had family gatherings, or when I visited Mom while they were there. We were cordial, but not particularly close, which seemed appropriate given that I was an adult with my own life, not their sibling or caretaker. 2 months ago, Mom and Gerald had a small, intimate wedding ceremony. It was nothing extravagant, just close family and friends gathered at a local restaurant. Mom looked beautiful and genuinely happy. After the honeymoon, Gerald and his 3 children moved into Mom's house, which had enough space to accommodate everyone comfortably. The house quickly transformed. What was once a peaceful, somewhat minimalist space now had toys scattered about, children's artwork on the refrigerator, and the constant noise that comes with having young kids around. Mom seemed to adjust well to the change, though I noticed she looked more tired than usual. She insisted she was happy with her new blended family, and I wanted to believe her. The first family dinner after the wedding was surprisingly pleasant. Gerald grilled steaks while Mom prepared a salad and some sides. The children were excited about their new living arrangement and spent most of the meal talking about their rooms and the backyard. I brought a homemade apple pie, which everyone appreciated. However, as the evening progressed, I began to notice how the children, especially the twins, seemed to lack basic discipline. They interrupted adult conversations, left the table without asking to be excused, and at one point, Jacob spilled his drink and simply walked away, leaving Mom to clean up the mess. Gerald barely reacted to their behavior, offering only a half-hearted, "Kids, settle down," when things got too chaotic. A week after the wedding, Gerald called me on a Saturday afternoon. His voice had that forced friendliness that immediately put me on edge. "Diana, how are you doing? Listen, I have a small favor to ask. I need to run to the office for a couple of hours to handle an emergency, and your mom is out with her friends. Would you mind coming over to watch the kids? They are already fed, so you would just need to keep an eye on them." It was my day off, and I had planned to catch up on some reading and laundry, but it seemed like a reasonable request. After all, family helps each other out. I agreed and drove over to Mom's house. The couple of hours turned into 5, and the already fed children were hungry again within an hour of my arrival. I ended up making them sandwiches and refereeing numerous fights over toys and TV shows. By the time Gerald returned, I was exhausted. "Thanks, Diana. You are a lifesaver," he said casually, as if my entire Saturday had not just been consumed by his children's needs. This scenario began to repeat itself with increasing frequency. Mom seemed to be working later hours recently, and Gerald always had some emergency that required him to be elsewhere. Each time he would call me with the assumption that I would drop everything to babysit. One particular Sunday, I had come over to have lunch with Mom, something we had planned days in advance. When I arrived, I found Gerald dressed in golf attire, car keys in hand. "Perfect timing, Diana. The guys are waiting for me at the golf course. The kids are in the backyard. Amanda should be home around 4. He was out the door before I could protest, leaving me standing in the foyer, confused and increasingly irritated. What had happened to my lunch with Mom? Why was it assumed that I would watch his children without even being asked? That afternoon, I tried to entertain the children as best I could, while silently fuming at the situation. Mom came home closer to 5 than 4, looking tired, but happy to see me. "How was your day, sweetie?" she asked, giving me a hug. "Gerald mentioned you offered to watch the kids so he could go golfing. That was so nice of you." I was stunned. I had offered no such thing. Gerald had simply assumed and then apparently lied to Mom about it. I tried to correct her misunderstanding. "Mom, I actually came over for our lunch date. Gerald just left when I arrived. We did not discuss me babysitting beforehand." A small frown creased her forehead. "Oh, there must have been some confusion, but you know how important networking is for his business, and golf is where a lot of deals happen. I am sure he appreciated the help, especially since you are so good with children." I wanted to press the issue, but the tired look in her eyes made me hold back. Instead, I helped her prepare dinner and tried to enjoy what remained of our time together. As I drove home that evening, I wondered if I was overreacting. After all, what was wrong with helping family? But something about the situation did not sit right with me. Over the next few weeks, I noticed Mom was working longer hours than usual. She mentioned something about a big project that required extra attention, which explained why she was not around as much. Meanwhile, Gerald's requests for babysitting became more frequent and less polite. "Diana, I need you here by 6 tomorrow evening," he said during one phone call, not even bothering to ask if I was available. "I have plans tomorrow evening, Gerald," I replied, trying to keep my voice even. What could be more important than family? The kids need supervision, and you know Amanda is working late these days. His dismissive tone made my blood boil, but I remained calm. "I understand, but I have prior commitments. Perhaps you could hire a babysitter for tomorrow." There was a pause on the line, followed by an exasperated sigh. "Fine, I will figure something out. But family should come first, Diana." The call ended with an uncomfortable tension that lingered with me throughout the day. That evening, I decided to speak with Mom about the situation. I called her cell phone, hoping to catch her during a break. "Hi, sweetie. Everything okay?" She answered, her voice hushed, as if she was trying not to disturb others. "Mom, I wanted to talk to you about something. Gerald has been asking me to babysit more and more, and sometimes it feels like he is just assuming I will always be available." There was a pause before she responded. "He is just trying to keep the family together, Diana. The children need stability, and having you around helps with that. Is it really such a problem to spend time with your new siblings?" "They are not my siblings, Mom. They are Gerald's children. And I love spending time with them, but I also have my own life and responsibilities." "Diana." Her voice took on that tone she used when she thought I was being unreasonable. "Blended families require adjustments from everyone. Gerald is trying his best, and I would appreciate it if you could be more supportive of our new family dynamic." The conversation left me feeling invalidated and confused. Had I really been selfish? Was I failing to adjust to the new family structure? These questions plagued me as I tried to navigate the increasingly uncomfortable situation. One particularly challenging afternoon, I found myself alone with all 3 children after Gerald claimed he had an urgent meeting. The twins were in one of their uncooperative moods, refusing to listen to anything I said. Ryan, picking up on his siblings' behavior, began throwing toys when I asked him to help clean up. "Jacob, Jasmine, please stop jumping on the couch," I said for what felt like the 100th time. "You are not our mom," Jacob replied defiantly. "Dad says we do not have to listen to you." His words stopped me in my tracks. "What do you mean? What did your dad say exactly?" Jasmine chimed in. "Dad said you are just helping out because that is what family does, but you are not really in charge of us." I was speechless. Gerald was undermining my authority with the children while simultaneously expecting me to care for them. It was a no-win situation that left me feeling used and disrespected. As the weeks passed, I began to make excuses when Gerald called with babysitting requests. I claimed to have work commitments, doctor appointments, or plans with friends, anything to avoid being taken advantage of again. Gerald's response was to become more insistent, his tone increasingly entitled. "Diana, I do not understand why this is so difficult for you," he said during one particularly tense phone call. "Your mother is working hard to provide for this family, and the least you could do is help out with the children." "I do help out, Gerald, but I also have my own life and responsibilities. Maybe you should look into hiring a regular babysitter." "Why would we pay someone when we have you? You are part of this family now." His use of "we" and "family" felt manipulative, as if he was using my love for Mom as leverage to get free childcare. I began to feel resentful not just toward Gerald, but also toward Mom for not seeing what was happening. The situation escalated one evening when Gerald called me claiming there was an emergency at the house. Worried about Mom and the children, I rushed over, only to discover that the emergency was that Gerald had forgotten about a dinner meeting with clients and needed someone to watch the kids. "You could have just asked me directly instead of making me worry," I said, unable to hide my irritation. "I knew you would come if you thought it was important," he replied with a shrug. "Besides, these clients are crucial for the company's growth. It is a real emergency in that sense." We had our first real argument that night. I accused him of manipulating me, and he countered by saying I was being selfish and unappreciative of all he had done for Mom and me. The conversation ended with him storming out to his dinner meeting, while I remained behind with 3 confused and upset children. Later that week, I overheard a troubling conversation. I had arrived at the house to drop off a birthday gift for Mom and was about to knock on the front door when I heard Gerald speaking to someone on the phone in the backyard. "Yeah, the best part about marrying Amanda is getting a built-in babysitter." Gerald laughed. "Diana might act reluctant sometimes, but she always caves. Free childcare, man. You cannot beat that. Saves me a fortune compared to what I was paying before." I froze my hand suspended mid-knock. The casual way he spoke about exploiting me made my stomach turn. This was not about family at all. It was about convenience and saving money. I quietly retreated to my car and sat there processing what I had heard. It explained why Gerald had been so persistent about my involvement with the children. It also explained another detail I had recently noticed shortly after the wedding. Maria, the part-time housekeeper who used to help with the children, stopped coming around. When I had asked Mom about it, she vaguely mentioned something about budget adjustments. Now I understood. Gerald had eliminated paid childcare because he intended to use me as a free replacement. Despite my growing resentment, I tried once more to talk to Mom about the situation. I found her alone one morning before work, sipping coffee in the kitchen. "Mom, can we talk about the babysitting situation? I feel like Gerald is taking advantage of my willingness to help." She looked up from her coffee with tired eyes. "Diana, please. I do not need this right now. Work is incredibly stressful, and I am trying to balance everything. Gerald told me how you have been resistant lately, making excuses and arguing with him. I understand you are adjusting to the new family dynamics, but so are we all." "But Mom, that is not what is happening. Gerald expects me to drop everything whenever he calls. He does not even ask anymore, he demands. He is just direct, sweetheart. That is how he communicates. And honestly, is it so terrible to help with the kids? You love children, you work with them every day. That is different. That is my job, and I get paid for it. I love spending time with Jacob, Jasmine, and Ryan, but I feel used when Gerald just assumes I will always be available." Mom sighed heavily. "Diana, part of being in a family is helping each other without expecting payment. I would think you would understand that." The conversation was going nowhere. Mom was too stressed and defensive to truly hear my concerns, and I was too hurt and angry to find a gentler way to express them. As tensions grew, I began to research Gerald's background, curious about his previous marriage and why it had ended. Through some social media digging and conversations with mutual acquaintances, I learned that Gerald's ex-wife, Sophia, had not simply left the family as he had claimed. The marriage had ended after years of Gerald's controlling behavior and his expectations that Sophia should handle all childcare and household responsibilities while maintaining a full-time job. The parallels to my current situation were disturbing. The final straw came when Gerald's demands began to affect my personal life. I had been getting to know Michael, a kind and thoughtful man I met at a teaching conference. After several casual coffee dates, he had asked me to dinner at an upscale restaurant in the city. I had been looking forward to it all week, carefully selecting my outfit and even splurging on a new dress. 2 hours before my date, as I was getting ready, Gerald called. His voice had the now familiar tone of entitlement that immediately set me on edge. "Diana, I need you to come over right now. There is an urgent situation at the office, and I need to go in. Amanda is working late again." "I cannot today, Gerald. I have plans that I cannot change," I replied firmly. "What could possibly be more important than family? The children need you. This is your duty now." His use of the word duty was the breaking point for me. "No, Gerald. Babysitting your children is not my duty. I have my own life. You need to find another solution." Gerald's voice turned cold. "I see. So this is how you show gratitude for all we have done for you. I am very disappointed, Diana. Your mother will be too." Before I could respond, I heard him dialing another number, presumably calling Mom to complain about me. Sure enough, minutes later, my phone rang with Mom's number. "Diana, what is going on? Gerald says you are refusing to help with the children during an emergency." Her voice was tense, disappointed. "Mom, it is not an emergency. He just wants to go to the office, and I have an important date tonight that I have been planning for weeks." "A date? You are putting a date ahead of family responsibilities, Diana. I raised you better than this." Her words stung like a physical slap. "Mom, please try to understand. Gerald is taking advantage of both of us. He expects me to be at his beck and call, and he is using your love for me to manipulate the situation. That is ridiculous. Gerald loves this family and works hard for us. The least you could do is help out when needed. The call ended with both of us upset and no resolution in sight. I finished getting ready for my date, though my excitement had been dampened by the argument. The restaurant Michael chose was elegant with soft lighting and intimate tables. He looked handsome in a navy suit, and for a while, I managed to push aside the family drama and enjoy his company. We were midway through our main course, laughing about a story he was telling, when a commotion at the entrance caught my attention. To my horror, Gerald was striding toward our table, all 3 children in tow. Jacob and Jasmine looked confused and uncomfortable in their hastily thrown-on clothes, while Ryan was clearly tired and cranky, rubbing his eyes with small fists. "Diana!" Gerald's voice carried across the restaurant, causing several diners to turn and stare. "Since you could not come to the children, I thought I would bring them to you." My face burned with humiliation as Michael looked between me and Gerald, clearly confused by the interruption. "Gerald, what are you doing?" I hissed, standing up to minimize the scene. "I have an emergency at work, remember? Since you refused to help, I had no choice but to bring them here. Now I will leave them with you while I handle this urgent matter." He attempted to usher the children toward our table, but I stepped forward, blocking his path. "No, absolutely not. You cannot do this." "This is your duty to the family, Diana," Gerald said loudly, seemingly unconcerned about the spectacle he was creating. "As part of our family, you have responsibilities." Something inside me snapped. Years of accommodating others, of putting my needs last, of trying to keep the peace, all came crashing down in that moment. "I am not your daughter, so no chance," I said, my voice steady, despite the anger coursing through me. "These are your children, Gerald. Your responsibility, not mine." Gerald's face reddened. "After everything your mother and I have done for you, this is how you repay us, by embarrassing me in public and refusing to help with the children. You are the one creating a scene in a restaurant. You are the one who dragged 3 tired children out at night to make a point. And you are the one who has been taking advantage of me for months." As our voices escalated, a restaurant manager approached politely but firmly, asking us to take the conversation outside. Michael, to his credit, remained calm and offered to settle the bill while I dealt with the situation. Outside, the confrontation continued. Gerald switched tactics, trying to make me feel guilty. "Your mother will be devastated when she hears about this. Is that what you want, to hurt her?" As if on cue, Mom's car pulled into the parking lot. Gerald must have called her after I refused his demand. She rushed over to us, looking stressed and angry. "Diana, what is happening? Why would you refuse to help when Gerald needed you?" she demanded. "Mom, look at what he is doing. He dragged the kids to my date to manipulate me. This is not about help, it is about control." Mom turned to Gerald, confusion evident on her face. "You brought the children here. Why would you do that?" For a moment, Gerald seemed flustered, not expecting Mom to question his actions. "I had no choice, Amanda. Diana refused to fulfill her family obligations, and I have an emergency at work." "What emergency exactly?" I pressed, sensing his discomfort. "A server crash. The whole system is down," he replied quickly, too quickly. "Then why is your development team not calling you? Why has your phone not rung once during this entire confrontation?" I challenged. Mom looked between us, her certainty visibly wavering. Michael had joined us outside and was quietly standing nearby, witnessing the family drama unfold. "I cannot believe you would do this, Diana," Mom said, but her voice lacked conviction. "Creating a scene like this, embarrassing everyone." "I did not create this scene, Mom. Gerald did, and this is not the first time he has manipulated situations to get what he wants." The children, tired and upset by the adults arguing, began to cry. Mom instinctively went to comfort them while Gerald continued to glare at me. "This is not over," he muttered before turning to Mom. Amanda, take the kids home. I will handle this at the office and join you later. As he walked away, I felt drained but also relieved. For the first time, I had stood up to Gerald's manipulations, even if it had cost me my date and potentially damaged my relationship with Mom. Michael was incredibly understanding, suggesting we reschedule for another night. As I watched Mom load the children into her car, our eyes met briefly. There was hurt there, but also something else. A flicker of doubt perhaps about the situation she had found herself in. The drive home was a blur of emotions, tears streaming down my face as I replayed the humiliating scene at the restaurant. My phone buzzed repeatedly with angry texts from Gerald and increasingly concerned messages from Mom. But I silenced it, needing space to think and plan my next steps. For the next few days, I avoided contact with both Gerald and Mom, needing time to process what had happened and decide how to move forward. I called in sick to work, something I rarely did, and spent hours researching narcissistic personality traits and manipulative behaviors. The more I read, the more Gerald's actions seemed to fit a classic pattern. On the third day, I received a visit from someone unexpected. Carol, my mom's older sister and my favorite aunt, knocked on my apartment door in the early afternoon. "Your mom is worried about you," she said as I let her in. "She says you have not been answering calls or texts." I needed some space, I explained, offering her a cup of tea, which she accepted. We sat at my small kitchen table, the familiar comfort of her presence easing some of my tension. Carol had always been the straight talker in the family, the one who called things as she saw them. "So, want to tell me what is really going on with Gerald?" she asked bluntly. I found myself pouring out the entire story, from the initial reasonable requests for babysitting to the escalating demands, the manipulation, and finally, the humiliating scene at the restaurant. Carol listened without interrupting, her expression growing increasingly concerned. When I finished, she sighed deeply. "I was afraid of something like this. Gerald reminds me too much of Amanda's father, your grandfather. Charming on the outside, controlling on the inside." "What do you mean?" "I never wanted to speak ill of your mom's choices, but I had my doubts about Gerald from the beginning. Something about him seemed off, too polished, too perfect. And the way he talked about his ex-wife, always making her the villain of the story, never taking any responsibility himself." Carol revealed that she had met Sophia, Gerald's ex-wife, by chance at a charity event about a year ago. Unlike the heartless woman who had abandoned her family that Gerald described, Sophia seemed kind, though somewhat wounded by her past. She did not volunteer much information, but what she did say made me concerned for your mom. She mentioned that Gerald had a pattern of using people, especially women, to care for his children while he focused on his career and social life. This information validated my suspicions and gave me the push I needed to dig deeper. With Carol's support, I decided to try contacting Sophia directly. Carol did not have her contact information, but through some careful social media searching, I managed to find her professional profile and sent a polite message explaining who I was and asking if she would be willing to talk. To my surprise, Sophia responded the next day, suggesting we meet for coffee. She seemed hesitant, but willing to share her experience. Our meeting revealed patterns in Gerald's behavior that mirrored exactly what I had been experiencing. After their marriage, Gerald had gradually isolated Sophia from friends and family, making her increasingly responsible for childcare while simultaneously criticizing her methods. He had eliminated paid help, claiming financial concerns while spending lavishly on himself. When Sophia finally stood up to him, the marriage deteriorated rapidly. "It was never about money," Sophia explained quietly. "It was about control. Gerald needs to feel that everyone around him is serving his needs and priorities. Anyone who challenges that becomes the enemy." She also shared something disturbing: Gerald's work emergencies were rarely genuine. Often, they were excuses to meet friends, or even date other women while still married. His software company, while legitimate, was not nearly as successful as he portrayed it to be, with financial troubles that he kept hidden from everyone. Armed with this knowledge, I began to carefully document every interaction with Gerald, recording phone calls, which is legal in our state, with one-party consent, and saving text messages. I also started researching Mom and Gerald's financial arrangements, concerned that he might be taking advantage of her financially, as well as emotionally. Through casual conversations with Mom's friends, and some careful questioning when we did speak, I discovered that Gerald had convinced Mom to add his name to her house deed shortly after the wedding, despite the property being paid off, and solely in her name for years. He had also been encouraging her to work overtime, claiming they needed the extra money for family expenses while he handled the finances. My suspicions deepened when I learned from Carol that Mom had mentioned financial strain recently, despite having been quite comfortable before the marriage. It seemed possible that Gerald was using Mom's income to support his lifestyle, or possibly to prop up his struggling business. With a growing file of evidence, I knew I needed to confront the situation directly, but I also knew I needed to approach Mom carefully. Years of being a peacekeeper had taught me that direct confrontation could cause her to become defensive and shut down. I decided to start by rebuilding our connection without Gerald present. I invited her to lunch at her favorite cafe, a place that held happy memories for us from before Gerald entered the picture. To my relief, she accepted. The cafe was busy when Mom arrived, looking tired but happy to see me. We exchanged somewhat awkward hugs before settling into our table by the window. "I have missed you," she said simply, her eyes reflecting genuine sadness at our recent distance. "I have missed you too, Mom," I replied, feeling a lump form in my throat. Despite everything, this was my mother, the woman who had raised me alone, who had always been my biggest supporter until Gerald came between us. We started with safe topics: her work, my teaching the latest movie we both wanted to see. Gradually, the tension eased, and I could see her relaxing, becoming more like the Mom I knew before her marriage to Gerald. As our meals arrived, I gently steered the conversation toward more serious matters. "Mom, I need to talk to you about something important, and I am asking you to just listen first without getting defensive. Can you do that for me?" Her smile faltered, but she nodded, setting down her fork to give me her full attention. "I love you, and I want you to be happy. That has always been true and always will be. But I am concerned about Gerald and the way he has been treating both of us." I could see her starting to tense up, so I reached across the table and took her hand. "Please just hear me out completely before responding." Over the next half hour, I carefully explained the pattern of Gerald's behavior, from the initial seemingly reasonable requests to the escalating demands and manipulation. I shared how he had spoken about me to others as a free babysitter, and how he undermined my authority with the children while still expecting me to care for them. "I have felt used and disrespected, Mom, and worse than that, I have felt like you chose him over me every time I tried to express my concerns." Mom's eyes filled with tears. "Diana, I never meant to make you feel that way. I just wanted us all to be a happy family. I thought you were resisting the change, not responding to genuine problems. I understand that, I really do, but there is something else you need to know." I took a deep breath. I have been researching Gerald's background and speaking with people who know him, including Sophia. At the mention of Gerald's ex-wife, Mom's expression changed to one of surprise and confusion. "You contacted Sophia. Why would you do that?" "Because I needed to understand if what I was experiencing was part of a pattern, and Mom, it is. Sophia went through almost exactly the same thing. Gerald isolated her, made her responsible for all childcare, criticized her constantly, and lied about work emergencies to do whatever he wanted." Mom shook her head. "Gerald said Sophia was unstable, that she abandoned her children." "That is not what happened. She left Gerald because of his controlling behavior, but he managed to get custody of the children by painting her as an unfit mother. She still tries to see them, but says Gerald makes it difficult. I could see Mom processing this information, doubt creeping into her expression. Carefully, I pulled out my phone. I have something else to show you. These are recordings of some of my recent conversations with Gerald. I know it is uncomfortable, but I think you need to hear them. I played several clips that clearly demonstrated Gerald's manipulative tactics, including one where he explicitly referred to me as free labor and laughed about it with a friend. Mom's face paled as she listened. When the recordings ended, she sat in silence for a long moment. I did not want to believe it, she finally whispered. There have been signs, things that did not quite add up, but I ignored them because I wanted so badly for this marriage to work. What kind of signs? I asked gently. Financial things, mostly. Money that should have been there, but was not. Explanations about expenses that seemed vague. He insisted on taking over the household finances, saying it would reduce my stress, but I have felt increasingly anxious about our situation. We talked for almost 3 hours, Mom gradually opening up about her own concerns and doubts that she had been suppressing. By the time we left the cafe, we had formed a plan. Mom needed to see Gerald's true nature for herself, and I would help facilitate that realization. We arranged for a family meeting at Mom's house the following evening. Gerald, thinking it was about resolving family tensions, readily agreed. What he did not know was that I had invited a special guest who would arrive halfway through our discussion. The atmosphere was tense when I arrived at Mom's house the next evening. Gerald was clearly annoyed by the prospect of a conversation he could not control, while Mom seemed nervous but determined. "Let us get this over with," Gerald said as we sat in the living room. "I have work to catch up on." "Thank you for agreeing to this discussion," I began calmly. "I think we need to address some serious issues in how this family is functioning." Gerald immediately went on the offensive. "If by issues you mean your refusal to help with the children and your disrespect toward me, then yes, we certainly do. Actually, I want to talk about your pattern of using people, Gerald, specifically how you have been using both me and my mother." His face darkened. "That is ridiculous. Everything I do is for this family." "Is it? Let us review the facts." I proceeded to outline everything I had documented: the escalating babysitting demands, the lies about work emergencies, the financial discrepancies Mom had begun to notice. Gerald attempted to interrupt repeatedly, his voice growing louder. But I remained calm and continued presenting the evidence. Mom, true to our plan, sat silently observing his reactions. "You are twisting everything," Gerald shouted when I finished. "Amanda, surely you do not believe these accusations. Diana has been resistant to our new family from the beginning. She is jealous of the children and the attention they require." Mom took a deep breath. "Gerald, please explain why Diana's phone shows 17 calls from you this month, all related to childcare, often with less than an hour's notice." "Emergencies happen, Amanda. I cannot predict when work will need my attention." "And yet," I interjected, "your company's development team confirmed that there have been no server crashes or system emergencies in the past 3 months, including the night you showed up at the restaurant." Gerald's face flushed with anger. "You had no right to contact my employees." "Why are you angry if there is nothing to hide?" Mom asked quietly. "And while we are discussing honesty, can you explain why $10,000 is missing from our joint savings account?" The doorbell rang before Gerald could formulate a response. Mom rose to answer it, returning moments later with Sophia. Gerald's face drained of color. "What is she doing here? This is a family matter." "Hello, Gerald," Sophia said calmly. "It has been a while." Sophia's presence changed the dynamic completely. With poise and dignity, she shared her experience of marriage to Gerald, confirming everything I had told Mom, and adding details that painted a clear picture of a manipulative, controlling man who used others to meet his needs while giving little in return. "He will make you feel crazy for questioning him," Sophia explained to Mom. "He will twist situations so that you are always wrong, always the one who needs to apologize. I spent 5 years doubting my own perceptions before I found the strength to leave. Gerald's attempts to discredit Sophia fell flat as she calmly presented documentation of his financial manipulation during their marriage, including hidden debts and misused funds patterns that were beginning to emerge in his marriage to Mom. As the evidence mounted, Gerald's demeanor changed from defensive anger to threatening intimidation. "This is slander," he hissed. "I will sue all of you. Amanda, if you continue with this charade, you will regret it. Think about what this will do to the children." "Do not threaten my mother," I said firmly. "We have documented everything, Gerald. Every manipulative call, every lie about emergencies, every financial discrepancy." Mom stood up, her voice steady despite the tears in her eyes. "I want you to leave, Gerald. Tonight. Take what you need for a few days. We can discuss the children's arrangements tomorrow when everyone is calmer." "You cannot be serious," he sputtered. "This is my home too." "Actually," I interjected, "the house is still solely in Mom's name. The deed transfer you initiated was never finalized because the notary flagged it for potential coercion and put a hold on the process." This was a lucky break we had discovered during our preparation, one that significantly strengthened Mom's position. Gerald looked between us, realizing he was cornered. His charm mask completely dropped, revealing the angry, controlling man beneath. "You will regret this, both of you. No one discards me like this. I will take everything in the divorce, including the children. No judge will grant custody to a woman who throws her husband out without warning." "I believe we have plenty of evidence that would interest a judge," Sophia said quietly, "including your pattern of alienating the children from their caregivers and your financial deceptions." For a moment, I thought Gerald might become physically threatening, but the presence of 3 determined women seemed to make him reconsider. With a final glare, he stormed upstairs to pack some belongings. The children, who had been playing in the backyard under the supervision of Carol, who had arrived discreetly to help, were confused by the commotion, but remained unaware of the specific details of the confrontation. Mom assured them that Gerald needed to go away for work for a few days, a familiar enough excuse that they accepted it without too many questions. After Gerald left the 3 of us, Mom, Sophia, and I sat in the kitchen drinking tea and processing what had just occurred. It felt like the aftermath of a storm calm, but with damage to assess and repair. "I am so sorry I did not see it sooner," Mom said, her voice hoarse from emotional exhaustion. "I was so determined to make this relationship work that I ignored all the warning signs." "He is very good at what he does," Sophia replied gently. "I spent years under his influence before I realized what was happening. The important thing is that you recognized it now before it went further." As the evening progressed, we developed a plan for the coming days. Mom would consult with a lawyer about divorce proceedings and financial protections. Sophia would help navigate the complexities of the children's situation, offering insights from her own experience. And I would provide emotional support while helping Mom rebuild her confidence and independence. Gerald made several attempts to regain control over the next few days, alternating between threats and pleas, promises to change, and accusations of betrayal. But with our united front and the substantial evidence we had gathered, his manipulations found no purchase. The road ahead would not be easy, but we had taken the first crucial step toward freedom from Gerald's toxic influence. 2 months have passed since that confrontation, and the change in our lives has been profound. Mom filed for divorce the week after Gerald moved out, citing emotional abuse and financial deception. With the evidence we gathered and testimony from Sophia and others who had experienced similar treatment from Gerald, the legal proceedings have largely favored Mom's position. The early days were difficult. Mom struggled with guilt over bringing Gerald into our lives and exposing us all to his manipulation. There were tears and sleepless nights, moments of doubt and fear about the future. But gradually, her natural strength and resilience reasserted themselves. I watched with pride as she reclaimed her confidence and independence day by day. "I should have listened to you sooner," she said one evening as we sorted through some of Gerald's remaining belongings. "You saw what I could not or would not see." "You were in love, Mom. We all want to believe the best about the people we love. Still, I am sorry for choosing him over you, for dismissing your concerns. That will never happen again." Our relationship has grown stronger through this ordeal, more honest and equal than before. I have seen Mom in her vulnerability and watched her rise again, while she has witnessed my capacity to stand firm in my convictions and fight for what is right. The children have been the most complicated aspect of the situation. Despite Gerald's failures as a husband and stepfather, he is still their father and they love him. Mom has been careful to shield them from the adult conflicts as much as possible, allowing them to maintain their relationship with Gerald through supervised visitations. Jacob, Jasmine, and Ryan were confused and upset by the sudden changes naturally. Mom and I have worked together to provide them with stability and reassurance during this transitional period. Surprisingly, my relationship with them has improved now that the pressure and resentment of forced babysitting has been removed. I visit regularly and enjoy spending time with them on my own terms as a caring adult in their lives rather than an obligated caretaker. Sophia has gradually re-entered the children's lives as well, with Mom's full support. The children were initially wary, having been told so many negative things about their mother by Gerald. But Sophia's patience and genuine love for them is slowly breaking down those barriers. Watching their relationship heal has been both painful and beautiful, a reminder of how damaging manipulation can be and how resilient the human heart is. As for Gerald, he has shown his true colors throughout the divorce proceedings, confirming every concern we had. When he realized that intimidation and manipulation were not working, he attempted to portray himself as the victim, even creating a GoFundMe page claiming he had been unjustly removed from his home and children. The community, armed with knowledge of the truth, did not rally to his cause as he had hoped. His financial deceptions were more extensive than we initially realized. Mom's lawyer discovered that Gerald had accumulated significant debt that he had hidden from her and had been using Mom's income and credit to sustain both his struggling business and his lavish personal spending. Fortunately, because the marriage was brief and Mom had documented evidence of deception, she has been largely protected from liability for his debts. My own life has begun to blossom again as well. Michael, the man whose dinner date was so dramatically interrupted by Gerald, showed remarkable understanding throughout the ordeal. After things settled down, we resumed dating and have been growing closer over the past few months. He has been a steady, supportive presence, never pushing, but always there when needed. It is still early days, but I find myself cautiously optimistic about our future. The experience with Gerald has made me more aware of boundaries in all my relationships. I have learned to recognize red flags early, to trust my instincts when something feels wrong, and most importantly, to speak up, rather than accommodate inappropriate behavior for the sake of keeping peace. Mom and I often reflect on what we learned from this chapter in our lives. For her, it was a painful lesson in looking beyond charm and romance to the character beneath. For me, it was about finding the courage to stand up not only for myself, but also for those I love, even when doing so creates conflict. "You know what I am most grateful for in all this," Mom said recently as we shared a quiet evening on her porch watching the sunset. "Not just that we escaped a bad situation, but that we did it together. You fought for me, even when I was not fighting for myself." "That is what family really means," I replied, squeezing her hand. "Not obligation or duty or control, but love that wants the best for each other." There is still healing to be done, practical matters to resolve, and challenges to face. The divorce will take time to finalize, and the children will need ongoing support to process these changes in their young lives. But we face these challenges from a place of truth and strength, no longer under the shadow of manipulation and control. If you have ever found yourself in a situation where someone tried to take advantage of your kindness or manipulate you through family obligations, I hope my story helps you find the courage to stand up for yourself. Loving someone does not mean sacrificing your own boundaries or accepting disrespect. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do, both for yourself and others, is to say no when necessary and demand the respect you deserve. Have you ever had to establish boundaries with family members or deal with someone who tried to take advantage of your good nature? I would love to hear your experiences in the comments below. And if you found this story helpful, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear it. Remember, standing up for yourself is not selfish. It is necessary for healthy relationships and your own well-being. Thank you for listening to my story.